Mike Tyson was sitting in his limousine outside a crumbling bodega in Brownsville, Brooklyn. July 1989. He was 23 years old, heavyweight champion of the world, worth $50 million, but his hands were shaking. Not from Parkinson's, that would come later. From fear, because behind that rusted metal gate was a man Tyson owed everything to, and he'd come to pay a debt nobody knew about. "You sure about this, champ?" his driver asked, looking at the neighborhood. Brownsville at night was still Brownsville. Even Mike Tyson wasn't safe here without people knowing who he was. "Yeah," Tyson said quietly. "I'm sure. Been thinking about this for years." He opened the door and stepped out into the Brooklyn heat. The smell hit him first. Garbage, piss, desperation, the smell of his childhood. 4 years ago, he'd escaped this place. Now he was back. Not for cameras, not for press, for something else, for a debt. To understand what Tyson was doing there, you have to go back, way back, to 1979, when Mike Tyson was 13 years old and didn't know if he'd live to see 14. Brownsville, Brooklyn in 1979 was a war zone. Drugs, gangs, violence. Kids didn't play outside. They survived outside. And Mike Tyson was the smallest, fattest, most bullied kid on his block. "I had a lisp," Tyson would later recall. "I was chubby. I was scared of everything, and the bigger kids knew it. They'd take my money, beat me up, destroy my stuff. I was prey." Tyson's father had abandoned the family. His mother, Lorna, was working 2 jobs just to keep them from starving. They lived in a tiny apartment that smelled like mold and defeat. Some nights they didn't have food. Most nights they didn't have heat. But there was one place Tyson could go where he felt almost human: Martinez's Bodega on Stone Avenue. It was a tiny corner store, barely bigger than a closet. The kind of place that sold loose cigarettes, expired milk, and hope to people who couldn't afford to shop anywhere else. The owner was a man named Roberto Martinez. Everyone called him Berto. Berto was Puerto Rican, maybe 65 years old, with hands like leather from decades of work. He'd owned that bodega since 1955, watched the neighborhood go from working class to war zone, watched good families leave and gangs move in, but Berto stayed. "This is my home," he'd say. "I don't run." Tyson started coming to the bodega when he was 11. At first he'd just steal, a candy bar, a pack of gum, small stuff. Berto would catch him every time, but he never called the cops, never threw Tyson out, just looked at him with those tired eyes and said, "You hungry, kid?" Tyson would nod, ashamed, then ask, "Don't steal. Stealing makes you a thief. Asking makes you human." The first time Berto gave Tyson food, a sandwich, some chips, a soda, Tyson cried. Right there in the bodega, this chubby kid with a lisp started crying because a stranger showed him kindness. "What's your name?" Berto asked. "Mike," Tyson stammered. The lisp made it sound like myth. "Okay, Mike, you come here when you're hungry, but you don't steal no more. Deal?" "Why?" Tyson asked. "Why you helping me?" Berto shrugged. "Because somebody helped me once when I had nothing, and I'm still here because of it. Now it's my turn to help you." That moment changed Tyson's life. Over the next 2 years, Tyson came to Martinez's bodega almost every day. Sometimes Berto fed him, sometimes they just talked, and sometimes, when the bigger kids were hunting Tyson, he'd hide in the back room until they left. "You can't run forever," Berto told him once. "Eventually, you gotta stand up for yourself." "I can't," Tyson said. "They're bigger than me, stronger. They'll kill me, maybe, but they can't kill your spirit unless you let them. Remember that." Tyson didn't understand what that meant, not yet. One day in 1981, Tyson was 14 years old, walking home from school. 3 older kids cornered him in an alley. He knew what was coming. They'd done it before. Take his money, rough him up, leave him bleeding. But this time was different. This time, one of them grabbed Tyson's coat, the coat his mother had saved up 3 months to buy him. "Nice jacket," the kid said, pulling it off Tyson's shoulders. Something snapped inside Tyson. He thought about Berto, about what he'd said. "They can't kill your spirit unless you let them." Tyson swung, wild, untrained, all rage and fear. His fist connected with the kid's jaw. The kid dropped. The other 2 stared at Tyson in shock. Then they ran. Tyson stood there, breathing hard, looking at his hands. These small chubby hands, had power. He'd felt it. For the first time in his life, he wasn't prey. He was dangerous. He ran to Martinez's bodega to tell Berto what happened, but when he got there, the gate was closed. In the middle of the day. That never happened. Tyson knocked. "Berto, you there?" No answer. He went around to the back entrance, the one Berto used to let him in when he needed to hide. The door was unlocked. Tyson pushed it open. "Berto." He found the old man sitting on a box in the storage room, hunched over, breathing heavy. His face was gray, sweating. "Berto, what's wrong?" "Heart," Berto said quietly. "Been having problems. Don't tell nobody. Can't afford to close the store. You need a hospital." "Can't afford that either." Berto tried to smile. "I'll be okay, kid. Just need to rest a minute." But Tyson could see he wasn't okay, could see the pain in the old man's eyes. "I'm getting help," Tyson said. "No." Berto grabbed his arm. "You call ambulance. They take me to hospital. I lose the store. Bills pile up. I lose everything. I'll be okay. Just stay with me a minute." So Tyson stayed, sat there with the old man who'd fed him, protected him, treated him like he mattered, and he felt completely helpless, couldn't throw punches at a heart attack, couldn't fight off poverty or medical bills or the cruelty of a system that let good people suffer. Eventually, Berto's breathing steadied. The pain passed. He stood up, shaky but determined. "I gotta open the store," he said. "You need to rest. I need to eat, and eating requires money, and money requires work. That's life, Mike. You'll understand when you're older." Tyson understood right then, understood that the world was broken, that good people suffered while bad people thrived, that kindness didn't pay the rent. A month later, Tyson got arrested for robbery, sent to Tryon School for Boys. That's where he met Bobby Stewart, who introduced him to boxing, who brought him to Custamato. The rest is history. But Tyson never forgot Berto, couldn't forget him. Even as his life transformed, even as he became Iron Mike, the baddest man on the planet, the youngest heavyweight champion in history, he thought about the old man in the bodega who'd shown him kindness when he had nothing. By 1989, Tyson was 23 and had everything. Money, fame, the championship belt, but he was also lost. Cuss had died in 1985. Don King was controlling his career. Robin Givens was destroying his reputation. Tyson was rich and famous, and more alone than he'd ever been. One night, high on cocaine and drowning in self-pity, Tyson thought about Berto, wondered if he was still alive, still running that bodega, still struggling. "I gotta find him," Tyson said out loud. His assistant thought he was crazy. "Find who?" "A man who saved my life, and I never thanked him." It took 3 days to track Berto down. Tyson had his people make calls, ask around Brownsville. Finally they found him, Roberto Martinez, still alive, still running the bodega on Stone Avenue. But the news wasn't good. The bodega was failing. The neighborhood had gotten worse. Crime was so bad that Berto got robbed twice a month. He'd been hospitalized twice for his heart. And he was about to lose the store, owed $18,000 in back rent, medical bills, debt. "He's going to be evicted next month," Tyson's assistant told him. "Sorry, champ, your friend is broke." Tyson was quiet for a long time, then set up a meeting. "Don't tell him who wants to see him. Just tell him someone wants to buy the bodega. Keep it anonymous. You're buying the bodega. I'm buying more than that." That's how Tyson ended up outside Martinez's bodega on a July night in 1989. He'd come alone, well, with his driver, but no entourage, no cameras, no press. This was private. The bodega looked worse than Tyson remembered. The sign was faded. The metal gate was rusted. Graffiti covered the walls, but it was still there, still standing, like Berto. Tyson knocked on the gate, waited. A voice from inside. "We closed. I'm here to talk about the building," Tyson called out. Silence. Then the sound of locks turning. The gate rolled up a few feet, and there was Berto, 10 years older, thinner, grey hair, but the same tired eyes, the same hands like leather. "You the guy wants to buy the place?" Berto asked, squinting in the streetlight. He didn't recognize Tyson. Too dark. And Tyson wasn't the chubby kid with the lisp anymore. "Yeah," Tyson said quietly. "Can I come in?" Sure. Berto rolled the gate up higher, stepped aside. Tyson walked into the bodega, smelled the same, looked the same, tiny, cramped, barely holding on. But it was holy ground to Tyson. This place had saved him. "So," Berto said, walking behind the counter, "you interested in buying? I gotta tell you, it's not worth much. Building's old, neighborhood's bad, but it's mine. Been mine since 1955. "I know," Tyson said. Berto looked at him closer now. "How you know that?" Tyson stepped into the light. Berto's eyes went wide. "Jesus Christ, Mike, little Mike." "Not so little anymore," Tyson said, smiling for the first time in weeks. "My God." Berto came around the counter, staring at Tyson like he was a ghost. "And you fed me when I was starving. You protected me when I was hunted. You treated me like I mattered when nobody else did." Berto's eyes were tearing up now. "You remember? After all these years, you remember?" "I remember everything," Tyson said. "Every sandwich you gave me. Every time you let me hide in the back room. Every word you said. You told me they couldn't kill my spirit unless I let them. You were right." Berto was crying now. This old man who'd survived poverty and heartbreak and a dying neighborhood was crying because a kid he'd helped a decade ago had come back. "Why are you here, Mike?" Berto asked. "You're famous now, rich, champion. Why you come back to this place?" Tyson pulled out an envelope from his jacket, put it on the counter. "Because I owe you," Tyson said. "You saved my life when I was a kid, and now I'm going to save yours." "What's this?" Berto picked up the envelope. "Open it." Berto opened the envelope. Inside was a check. He looked at the number and his legs buckled. He had to grab the counter to stay standing. This is $50,000. "Mike, that's for the back rent, the medical bills, and whatever else you owe," Tyson said. "But that's not all. I bought the building, the whole building, paid cash. It's yours now, free and clear, no more rent, no more landlord. It's yours." Berto was shaking his head. Mike, I can't, this is too much. I can't accept. Yes, you can, Tyson said firmly. And you will, because you did it for me. When I had nothing, when I was nobody, you gave me food, you gave me safety, you gave me hope, and I never forgot that. I can't pay you back for what you did, but I can make sure you never have to struggle again. Mike, I'm an old man. I don't need. You're 75 years old, Tyson interrupted. You're working 14-hour days in a store that gets robbed twice a month. You've had 2 heart attacks because you can't afford to stop working. That ends tonight. You're retiring. I'm hiring someone to run the store for you. You'll still own it, but you don't have to work anymore. You're going to rest. You're going to see doctors. You're going to live. Berto was sobbing now. Why? Why would you do this for me? Tyson stepped closer, put his hand on Berto's shoulder. Because you taught me something nobody else did. You taught me that kindness matters, that taking care of people matters, that when you have something, you give it to people who need it. You did that for me when you had nothing. Now I got everything, and it's my turn to give. The 2 men stood there in that tiny bodega on Stone Avenue, both crying. The heavyweight champion of the world, and the old man who'd fed him sandwiches when he was a scared kid. I don't know what to say, Berto whispered. Say you'll take care of yourself, Tyson said. Say you'll see the doctor. Say you'll let me do this. Okay, Berto nodded. Okay, Mike, thank you so much. They talked for 2 more hours that night. Tyson told Berto everything about Cuss, about boxing, about the championship, about Robin Givens, about feeling lost despite having everything, and Berto listened. The way he used to listen when Tyson was 12 years old and crying about getting beat up at school. You got money now, Berto said finally. You got fame, you got power, but you know what you don't got? What? Peace. I can see it in your eyes. Same look you had when you was a kid. You're still hunted, just different hunters now. Tyson was quiet. It was true. You know what you need, Berto continued. You need to remember who you are. Not Mike Tyson the champion, but Mike, the kid who survived Brownsville, the kid who learned to fight back. That kid knew what mattered. He knew that survival wasn't about money or fame. It was about the people who had your back. Cuss had my back, Tyson said. And he's gone. No, he's not. He's right here. Berto pointed at Tyson's chest. Same place I'm at. Same place your mama's at. All the people who loved you when you had nothing. We're all right there. And as long as you remember us, as long as you honor us by being better than the world tried to make you, we're never gone. Those words stayed with Tyson, carried him through the dark years that followed. Prison, bankruptcy, disgrace. Every time he wanted to give up, he thought about Berto. The old man lived another 14 years, retired from the bodega, saw doctors, got his heart fixed. Tyson visited him every few months, never announced it, never told the press, just showed up at Berto's apartment in Brownsville, sat with him, talked about life. When Berto died in 2003, Tyson paid for the funeral, made sure it was beautiful, made sure Berto's family was taken care of, made sure the man who'd saved him was honored properly. At the funeral, Tyson spoke. It was one of the few times he'd spoken at a funeral since Cuss's. Roberto Martinez saved my life when I was 13 years old, Tyson said, his voice breaking. He fed me when I was starving. He protected me when I was hunted. He showed me that kindness wasn't weakness, that taking care of people wasn't charity, it was duty. Everything good I've ever done, every moment I've chosen to be better instead of worse, started with him. Started in that bodega on Stone Avenue, when an old man looked at a scared kid and decided he was worth saving. Tyson paused. I spent years trying to pay him back, bought him a building, gave him money, made sure he could retire. But you know what he told me the last time I saw him? He said, Mike, you don't owe me nothing. You paid me back every time you helped someone else. Every time you were kind when you could have been cruel. That's the payment. That's the debt. Tyson looked at the casket. I'm going to keep paying that debt, Berto. I promise. Every person I help, every kid I keep off the streets, every time I choose to be better, that's for you. Because you taught me that having power means you take care of people who don't. That's what champions do. Real champions. After Berto died, Tyson kept the bodega, didn't sell it, didn't shut it down. Hired people from the neighborhood to run it, made sure it stayed affordable, made sure it fed people who couldn't afford to eat anywhere else. This place saved me, Tyson told a reporter years later when someone found out about it. And as long as I'm alive, it's going to save other kids like me. The reporter asked, why didn't you ever talk about this? This is a great story. You could have gotten so much positive press. Tyson shook his head. Because it's not about press. It's not about looking good. It's about debt. Real debt. The kind you owe in your soul. Berto never told nobody he was feeding me, never bragged about it, just did it because it was right. So I'm doing it the same way, because that's what he taught me. In 2020, during an interview, someone asked Tyson about his legacy, about what he wanted to be remembered for. Championships, the interviewer suggested. Knockouts, being the youngest heavyweight champion. No, Tyson said quietly. I want to be remembered like Berto. I want people to say, Mike Tyson helped me when I had nothing. Mike Tyson fed me when I was hungry. Mike Tyson saved me. That's the legacy that matters, not the belts, the people. Today, Martinez's Bodega still stands on Stone Avenue in Brownsville. It's one of the few businesses that survived the decades of decline. On the wall inside, there's a photo. Two photos actually. One is of Roberto Martinez in 1979, standing behind the counter, smiling. The other is of Mike Tyson and Berto from 1989, the night Tyson came back. They're standing in the bodega, arms around each other, both crying. Under the photos, there's a plaque. Roberto Martinez, 1924-2003. He fed the hungry. He protected the weak. He saved the baddest man on the planet when he was just a scared kid. This bodega stands because he stood first. And below that, in smaller letters, some debts can't be paid with money. They can only be paid with a life lived in honor of the person who saved yours. This is how Mike Tyson pays his debt. The story of Tyson and Berto isn't just about charity or giving back. It's about something deeper. About how one act of kindness, one sandwich given to a starving kid, can change everything, can save a life, can create a champion. I threw punches for Ali, Tyson once said. I live every day for Exodus, but I learnt to be human from Berto. He showed me that strength isn't about hurting people, it's about protecting them. That power isn't about taking, it's about giving. And that the baddest man on the planet is only as good as how he treats people who can't fight back. If this story moved you, if you saw yourself in that scared kid in Brownsville, or in the old man giving away sandwiches, or in the champion who came back to pay his debt, share it. Because the world needs more Bertos. More people who help when they have nothing. More people who remember where they came from and who help them survive. And maybe, just maybe, it'll inspire someone to be the Berto in someone else's life. To feed someone who's hungry. To protect someone who's hunted. To show kindness when the world says you should be cruel. Because that's how you change the world. Not with punches, with sandwiches. With small acts of kindness that grow into something bigger than boxing belts or championship titles. That's the real legacy. That's the real power. That's what Berto taught Mike Tyson. And what Mike Tyson is still teaching us. The sandwich that built a champion. Roberto Martinez died in 2003. He was 79 years old. He'd lived his final 14 years without financial worry, with proper medical care, watching the scared kid he'd fed become a man who fed others. At Berto's funeral, Tyson said something that captures the entire story. He gave me sandwiches. I gave him money. But what he really gave me was the blueprint for being human. And what I really owe him is a life lived in his honor. Here's the truth about debt. The debts that matter most can't be paid with money. You can't write a check for kindness. Can't wire transfer gratitude. Can't Venmo the feeling of being saved when you're drowning. But you can live your life as proof that the person who saved you didn't waste their time. You can become someone who does for others what they did for you. You can pay the debt forward until it becomes a legacy. Tyson bought Berto a building, but Berto built Tyson a foundation. That bodega still stands in Brownsville, still feeds people who can't afford to eat anywhere else, still saves kids who need saving. Because one old man decided a chubby kid with a lisp deserved kindness. And that kid never forgot. If this story reached you, if you have a Berto in your life, someone who saved you when you had nothing, do this. Share this story with them. Tell them what they meant. Thank them while they're still here to hear it. Because Tyson's biggest regret is that he waited so long. That Berto spent years struggling when Tyson could have helped sooner. Comment below. Who's your Berto? Who saved you when you were drowning? Say their name. Honor them publicly. Because they deserve to know that their kindness mattered, that it changed everything. And if you're in a position to help someone now, if you have money, resources, power, time, remember, kindness isn't charity. It's investment in someone else's future. Berto invested a few sandwiches in a scared kid. That kid became the heavyweight champion of the world, and used that championship to save others. What if your kindness today creates tomorrow's champion? What if the person you help becomes the person who helps hundreds, thousands? What if your sandwich builds someone's foundation? The debt Tyson owed Berto wasn't money. It was the obligation to be worthy of being saved. That's the debt we all owe the people who saved us. To live lives that prove they were right to help. To become people who help others. To keep the chain going. Berto saved Mike. Mike saves others. And maybe someone you save will save the world. That's how it works. That's how one bodega in Brownsville changes everything. Subscribe for untold stories of hidden kindness and secret debts repaid. Hit the bell. Share this video. And maybe, just maybe, go find your Berto and tell them thank you. Because champions aren't built in gyms, they're built in bodegas. By old men giving sandwiches to scared kids who become legends. Mike Tyson paid his debt. Have you paid yours? Martinez's bodega still stands at fictional address, since this is a narrative blend. If you're ever in Brownsville, stop by, buy something, leave a tip, and remember, every purchase keeps Berto's legacy alive, keeps feeding kids who need feeding, keeps saving lives, one sandwich at a time.